Hidden in the corridors of eternity lies a story almost too dangerous to be told, the war of heaven itself. Not a myth, not a legend, but a conflict where Michael, the archangel of valor, and Lucifer, the fallen star, clashed in ways that reshaped the destiny of creation. The shocking truth is that this war still casts its shadow over our world today. This was no ordinary battle. It was a collision of glory and rebellion, of loyalty and pride. Imagine forces so immense that the heavens trembled. Secrets so dark they were locked away until now. What if the struggles of humanity, wars, betrayals, and unseen chaos are reflections of that cosmic conflict? This revelation is not distant history. It is the thread that binds heaven's war to your present reality. If you feel the weight of this unveiling, I invite you to comment 777 below, not just as a number, but as a symbol of alignment with heaven's truth. And to every one of you who has stood with this channel, especially those who've shown love through super thanks, your support is not forgotten. It fuels the light in this mission to uncover what was once hidden. Now, stay close, because we are about to step into the heart of heaven's most guarded secret. What you will hear next may forever change how you see both heaven above and the world you live in. The shocking secret behind heaven's war. You won't believe this revelation. Before time carved its first line across eternity, there was only harmony, an existence so pure that words seemed too frail to contain it. Heaven stretched endlessly, a kingdom radiant with the Creator's love, where peace was not an ideal, but the very air every being breathed. The skies themselves pulsed like a living hymn, shimmering with the glow of perfect unity. Angels countless, luminous, each one born of light, lifted their voices in unbroken song. Their praise rose and fell like waves across a shore of eternity. And in that symphony, every note was a purpose fulfilled, every chord a reflection of divine order. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of His glory. Isaiah 6:3. Their voices echoed this truth. And all creation responded with reverence. Standing among this multitude were the archangels, towering guardians of divine will. Michael, fierce in loyalty, and Gabriel, herald of mysteries, were but two of those who carried the weight of heaven's order upon their shoulders. They were leaders, not by force, but by a devotion that burned like fire through their beings. Their eyes never left the brilliance of the throne, where the Almighty reigned in unapproachable light. Seraphim circled endlessly, veiling themselves from a glory too radiant to bear, wings trembling at the very sound of His presence. Even the strongest bowed low, for here power was not seized, but surrendered, and majesty belonged to one alone. Can you sense how overwhelming that brilliance must have been, where even the mightiest beings trembled as dust before Him? Yet within this holy order stood one who eclipsed them all in beauty, wisdom, and radiance, Lucifer, the morning star. His very presence seemed to blaze with unmatched brilliance. When he sang, heaven itself stilled, for his voice carried the weight of eternity, a melody that wrapped itself around the throne like incense. He was entrusted with authority no other had known, standing nearer to the Almighty than any other created being. Power clothed him, and splendor seemed his birthright. What would it feel like to stand so close to divine majesty? to be the first to taste the light of glory each time it poured forth from the throne. In that realm, there was no shadow, no division, only the pure essence of worship. Heaven was not merely a place, but a living reflection of God's perfect will, unmarred by discord. And yet, even in this sanctuary of eternal harmony, something unseen began to stir, quiet and invisible, like the faintest tremor beneath a calm sea. Could it be possible that within perfection itself, the seed of rebellion had already been sown? Before ruin scarred his name, Lucifer stood as the very portrait of divine artistry. His form glistened like a living masterpiece, adorned in stones of fire, sapphires, emeralds, topaz, and gold that caught and refracted the light of the Almighty. The prophet Ezekiel later wrote of him, "Every precious stone was your covering. On the day you were created, they were prepared." Ezekiel 28-13. His wings stretched wide as rivers of light, casting shimmering hues across the heavens. And when he lifted his voice, the choirs of angels fell silent, for his song alone could summon awe from the heart of eternity. Can you imagine standing in that chorus? Your own voice swept into the tide of praise led by one whose song felt as if it belonged to heaven itself. Yet beauty was only half of his mantle. Authority clothed him more tightly than the jewels he bore. Lucifer stood at the very throne, pacing amidst the holy fire of God's glory, carrying a charge no other angel was entrusted with. Power radiated from him like flame from a torch, and trust had placed him second only to the Almighty himself. The mysteries of heaven, the currents of creation, the designs of divine order were his to guard. And still, beneath the brilliance, a darker ember flickered. What happens when light no longer satisfies the one called the morning star? Ambition grew, subtle at first, then unrelenting. No longer was he content to reflect the Creator's glory, he longed to claim it. The bearer of light became bearer of a secret hunger, whispering to himself words that would one day shake eternity. "I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High." Isaiah 14:14. In those moments, the sanctuary of heaven trembled not with noise, but with a silence that hid betrayal. Lucifer's rebellion did not begin with a shout, but with a whisper. To the angels closest to him, to those dazzled by his brilliance and inspired by his command, he spoke with cunning sweetness. Why must service bind wings that could reign? Why kneel when equality with the Creator could be grasped? The questions sank like hooks into their hearts. Step by step, admiration shifted into allegiance. His charm was irresistible, his promises intoxicating, his vision of a new order far too tempting for many to resist. Slowly, wings turned, hearts followed, until a third of the heavenly host beings born for worship aligned themselves with the one who would no longer serve. Heaven, once a symphony of flawless worship, now trembled under the weight of division. What had begun as a whisper in Lucifer's heart had swelled into a storm, and that storm had gathered an army. He was no longer content to kneel, no longer content to sing. He would rise as a commander, daring to challenge the very one who formed him. The perfect order of eternity had been fractured, and in its place, a shadow spread. The war in heaven had begun. Every being could feel it, a vibration beneath the fabric of eternity itself. Like the first tremor before an earthquake, the very essence of heaven quivered, as though creation braced itself for impact. Then, in a flash, everything shifted in a moment. In the twinkling of an eye, 1 Corinthians 15:52, peace was pierced by sound. A trumpet blast thundered across the skies, sharp as lightning splitting a tree, and it shattered the calm. What had been eternal harmony now bent beneath the announcement of war. Can you picture what it must have felt like? That instant when eternity itself gasped, Lucifer's army, the Black Third, moved with terrifying speed, their wings slicing through the heavens like blades of shadow. They organized with military precision, an endless legion clothed in darkness. The mighty pressed to the front, their strength blazing like inverted stars, while the lesser ones crowded behind, rank upon rank. They filled the expanse until the horizon itself seemed swallowed by blackness. No war cry rose from their throats, only the suffocating silence of betrayal. Once they had been beings of light, but now their glow was choked by rebellion. Does it not chill the heart to think that splendor itself could turn so swiftly into horror? Across the expanse, the faithful angels of light stood aghast. Confusion and sorrow burned in their eyes, for these were brothers, companions, ones who had shared eternity's song, and yet they could see what was coming if they hesitated. Devastation would follow. Lucifer's legions sought to strike first, to wound heaven before holy justice could answer. They gathered in the sacred expanse called Nullus, the sea of glass that shimmered like a mirror beneath eternity's throne. Ordinarily, angels approached this place as worshippers, soaring upward into the brilliance of divine radiance, trembling as they entered the Almighty's marvelous light. But this day was not ordinary. Lucifer's gaze turned not upward but forward. He would not bow, he would march. His army would press upon Nomus, the holy ground, daring to tread even to the base of the throne's steps. And so the stage was set, light and shadow, worship and rebellion, all converging at the mountain of the throne, high above the expanse. The 24 elders floated, suspended in the current of eternity itself. Their focus was unshaken, their voices entwined in ceaseless worship of the one from beyond, clothed in robes that burned like living fire. Their garments shifted through hues of crimson, sapphire, and gold, as if they were woven from the very breath of creation. Their song was meant to echo through the heavens forever. Yet now, as the dark tide pressed forward, their melodies were swallowed by the rising march of rebellion. What does it mean when even the sound of eternal praise is drowned beneath the weight of treachery? Near the throne, the 4 living creatures stirred, full of eyes before and behind. Nothing escaped their gaze. Guardians of the holy mountain, they took their stand at the base of the throne's steps, unyielding sentinels of the Almighty. The first, fierce as a lion, radiated kingly strength. The second, steady as a calf, embodied sacrifice. The third bore the visage of a man, a mystery of wisdom, and the fourth soared like an eagle, wings spanning eternity's heights. Each one carried 6 wings, and every part of their being inside and out gleamed with eyes that blazed like stars. Scripture tells us, day and night they never stop saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was, and is to come." Revelation 4-8. Their cries had been heaven's heartbeat, the ceaseless anthem of creation. As Lucifer's host advanced, it seemed for a moment that these mighty guardians would unleash their fury. Their growls reverberated like thunder. Their wings stirred the air with tempest force. and their countless eyes burned with warning. Yet, at an unseen command, a silent decree from the throne itself, they withheld their wrath. Their voices, which once shook the heavens with holy fire, grew low. They barked and snarled as the darkness pressed past them, but they did not strike. Even these beings, who had never ceased their watch, bowed their heads and gave ground when the morning star approached. Can you feel the weight of this? When even the fiercest guardians of the throne yield their place, the air itself seems to tighten with suspense. What could possibly unfold if such power chooses silence before rebellion? Thunder rolled through the expanse, and lightning split across the heavens like veins of fire. With every crack, whispers rose, carrying the countless names of God, each name a weight, each syllable echoing through eternity. Before the armies stood the throne room's door, towering and immeasurable, a spectacle no mortal eye could fathom, forged of living gold and set with gems unknown to the earth. It shimmered like the cosmos itself compressed into a single gate. Its enormity was such that to gaze upon it was to feel as though one was staring upward from the dust of earth into the infinity of stars. Upon its surface, sacred inscriptions glowed. King of Kings carved across the heights, Lord of Lords etched deep at the base, and in the heart, everlasting to everlasting. Surrounding these were hieroglyphs, not of man, but of spirit symbols pulsing with meaning too ancient, too holy for created minds to fully comprehend. Lucifer hovered before this gate of eternity, though cloaked now in darkness. Traces of the radiance that once defined him betrayed themselves, glowing faintly at the edges of his form. Nearness to the Father stirred something deep in his being, an involuntary reaction, a reflex of creation to its creator. His body, even in rebellion, could not help but respond to holiness. But instead of awe, fury ignited within him. To feel the pull of light he had once embraced enraged him beyond measure. What would you have thought, standing in that moment, watching beauty twist itself into defiance? In a violent outburst, Lucifer enacted a grotesque declaration. From his back he tore the organ pipes, those instruments of living music that had once filled heaven with harmony, ripping them out as metal shrieks echoed like thunder. They fell, crashing against the sea of glass with a clang so deafening it reverberated through every heart. Curses spilled from his lips against the one who had crafted them. He then clawed at his throat, pulling forth his vocal cords, the very channels of worship through which heaven's choirs had been led, and hurled them down in contempt. Though his wounds sealed instantly, the act itself was meant as a scar upon eternity, a living testimony of rebellion. Finally, with trembling hands, he seized his crown, the Union Crown, first gift of the Almighty, the symbol of exaltation and trust, and crushed it. Shards of light scattered across the ground like broken stars as he flung it away. The heavens collectively recoiled. Gasps rose like a wave from the faithful host. For never before had such defilement been witnessed in the holy courts. What does it say about pride when even the most honored gift, freely given, is despised and shattered with a thunderous force? The doors of the throne room burst open, flooding the heavens with a light so fierce it seemed to pierce through every particle of creation. Winds roared from within, a tempest alive with holiness, tearing across the essence with deafening might. The sound was not chaos but order in its purest form, an anthem of power, and within that storm rose a deep resonance, a chorus of countless voices layered like the ocean's depth, proclaiming the sacred names of God. The winds pressed outward, striking even Lucifer, pushing him back as if the very breath of the Almighty refused to make room for rebellion. Then, at the threshold, a solitary figure emerged. His face burned with a brilliance beyond description, like the detonation of 1,000 suns blazing all at once. Upon his head rested a crown unlike any other 10,000 diamond steeples, radiant and untouchable, each facet refracting glory. His skin shimmered as if made of flowing liquid light. Alive, uncontainable. His hair streamed like clouds of divine energy, thunder dancing through every strand, and lightning flashed within his beard as if eternity itself found shelter there. His robe pulsed with holiness, a living garment of power and authority. This was not merely an angel, nor a messenger. This was the King of Glory, the Lord strong and mighty. Psalm 24:8. The sheer weight of his presence was unbearable to the unfaithful. Even among the darkened host, fear seized them, and some fled, wings thrashing wildly as they scattered into the void. His eyes blazed with eternal fire, galaxies of flame swirling in their depths, infinite and unrelenting. Above his head arched a rainbow, the covenant of ages. To his right flared a burning star, and to his left hung a moon gleaming with ancient witness. The cosmos itself bent to frame his glory. He parted his lips, and when he spoke, it was not merely sound, it was essence itself. His word struck the senses before it struck the ears, reverberating like creation's heartbeat. Every syllable carried the weight of command. Undeniable, irresistible, the Master had spoken, and the heavens held their breath. Lucifer stood tall, his form blazing with arrogance, his golden wings unfurling wide as though to blot out the very light that once clothed him. His voice, sharp as iron striking stone, cut through the expanse. You know why I've come. I will no longer serve as your pawn. Behold the army. I command 1/3 of the host bends to me. Was I not crafted to guard your throne, to cover your glory? That season is finished. Now I will take my place atop the holy mountain. I will draw worship to myself. I rise above the Most High. I alone am king. Andafas, Hitzomash. The declaration ricocheted across eternity, every syllable shaking the heavens. His legions erupted in cheers, a thunder of defiled voices rising in blasphemous unity. His generals, once angels of splendor, nodded their twisted approval, rallying their ranks with grim determination. And yet, beyond the sea of darkness, the rest of heaven stood paralyzed, a stunned silence spreading like frost across their wings. Could this truly be the same morning star who had once led them in worship? Then, a voice rose not like one, but like countless waters crashing all at once. It was the voice of the Almighty, rolling with authority older than time. Stand down, O spirit of vanity, for it was I who drew you from nothingness, and it is I who can return you to nothing again. The words carried fire, they carried truth. None could escape their weight, not even the rebellious. Still, the dark host did not relent. They spat curses into the holy air, defiance staining every breath. And Lucifer himself, consumed with fury, began to glow as though his very essence burned with corrupted fire. His brilliance, once pure gold, bled into a violent crimson, a mockery of the light he had been. His voice thundered once more, dripping with venom. "It is my beauty and power that surpasses all wisdom. I was your first, your greatest creation. But now I rise above you. Bow to me, Father, for I am the true King." One was never. Heaven drew into a silence so heavy it felt as though creation itself held its breath. Then, breaking through the stillness, came a sound no ear could mistake the laughter of God. It was not laughter born of mirth, but of unshakable authority. A sound that rolled like 1,000 thunders and struck the essence of eternity itself. The Almighty's voice followed, cutting deeper than any blade. "You are a fool, O Angel. No evil shall abide in my kingdom. Depart from me, workers of iniquity." At the sound of the fourth trumpet, you shall be cast down into the lower realm, a place prepared for mankind. There you will watch as they rise to the place you once coveted. Seated at my side, you skill. The words struck like lightning through the heavens. A decree sealed and immutable. And then an act as chilling as it was final, the Almighty turned his back on Lucifer. For the morning star, once radiant, it was the ultimate wound, the clearest rejection of his claim to the throne. Rage consumed him like wildfire. In that instant, his form twisted and convulsed, beauty shredding into monstrosity. Lucifer became a dragon beyond comprehension, its body stretching 1,000 feet, casting shadows over the sea of glass. 7 heads rose from his shoulders, each bearing a crown black as night, each head snarling curses in defiance. 7 tails lashed behind him, splitting the air with violent force. From his many mouths poured blasphemy. 7-fold curses spewed in tongues unholy, staining the atmosphere with rebellion. Then came the assault, with a roar that split the heavens. The dragon exhaled a torrent of fire, a blast so consuming it seemed to warp the very essence of creation itself. His fury was aimed at one target, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Could fire forged in rebellion ever scorch the one who first spoke flame into existence? The heavens braced for impact, for eternity itself stood on the edge of collision. Before the torrent of flame could touch the throne, the heavens erupted in brilliance. 2 figures of purest light appeared, their radiance shredding the infernal blast until it vanished like smoke in the wind. Michael and Gabriel, the archangels, had stepped forward. For the first time in eternity, the Trinity of Heaven's guardians stood divided, one of their own now lost to corruption. The sight was both majestic and heartbreaking. Michael towered with unmatched presence, his features sharp and regal, carved as though from living stone. In his right hand he gripped a sun sword, its blade burning with the fury of creation's first dawn. In his left, a bowl of lightning crackled, bolts sparking and leaping like living serpents of fire. His hair, white flames dancing like waves, crowned his head, and his vast wings shimmered in countless layers, each feather alive with glory. Golden armor, forged from the very heart of heaven, wrapped his frame. Upon his breastplate gleamed the holy seal, a mark no darkness could touch. Beside him stood Gabriel, youngest of the archangelic trinity. His resemblance to Lucifer was undeniable, a haunting echo of what had been lost. Yet he bore no jewels, no instruments of vanity, only the purity of flame. His hair streamed in hues of white and gold, a fire both gentle and fierce. In his hands rested 2 sacred weapons, the trumpet of Antioch, carved with mysteries of the ages, and a golden shield etched with the sigil of the archangels. His eyes were heavy with sorrow, disbelief etched into every line of his face. For before him was not the brother he had once stood beside in worship, but Satan twisted, corrupted, leading an army of the young into ruin. The unthinkable moment had come, war in God's kingdom. Satan turned, 7 eyes flashing with contempt, his gaze fixed on Michael and Gabriel. Hatred dripped from his voice as he spat. "Remember this day, my brothers. Attack at his command." A dark haze bled across the expanse as billions of wings unfurled in unison. The sound of their beating thundered like endless drums, shaking the celestial essence itself. The sky became a storm of blackened feathers as the rebellious host surged forward. With a snarl, Satan whipped his massive tail, striking both Michael and Gabriel aside like fragile vessels caught in a tempest. From his crowned heads erupted a beam of devastation, black as the void, yet streaked with a blood-red tail, tearing through the heavens with apocalyptic force. But Gabriel, unflinching, leapt into its path, folding his wings across his body. He became a shield of living fire. The blast struck, searing through his feathers, and hurled him downward with catastrophic power. And before he could recover, one of Satan's dark commanders descended upon him, driving him further into ruin. The battlefield quaked as Satan unleashed a blast greater than any before, fire and darkness erupting from all 7 heads at once. The heavens split with its fury, and even the holy mountain of God trembled beneath its power. The beam tore through the essence, so blinding that for a heartbeat everything turned white. Silence, heavy and suffocating, fell upon the hosts. The clash of war froze in that suspended moment. But when the haze cleared, the silence broke into awe, for there, untouched and immovable, stood the One above all. The Almighty himself had entered the fray, his presence unshaken by the dragon's rage. The brilliance of his being radiated across the battlefield, and in his voice thundered the command, "Attack the inhabitants of evil." His word was not a request, but a decree, and instantly the faithful armies moved as one. From every corner of heaven, the angels of light descended in a torrent of divine fire. Their wings blazed, their voices roared, and the collision of white and black erupted with a fury that shook the very fabric of eternity. Michael, regaining his stance, lifted his sun sword once more, its edge burning like a newborn star. With a strike of holy vengeance, he cleaved into one of Satan's heads, and the dragon howled in torment, its roar echoing like collapsing worlds. Yet Satan's fury only deepened with venomous precision. His spiked tail lashed forward, piercing through Michael's armor, driving the archangel backward. Michael's grip faltered, and his weapon slipped from his grasp as the dragon's colossal foot struck him down. Turning his gaze to the Almighty, Satan hissed, voice dripping with malice, "Last chance." Ready known, but God did not stir. He stood as eternal witness, sovereign even amidst the chaos, his silence heavier than any reply. The war raged around him, yet his gaze remained steady, as if even rebellion itself could not shake his throne. At that moment, Gabriel swept down in a blaze of fire, seizing Michael from the battlefield before the dragon could finish his assault. Their wings beat in unison as they pulled back to safety. Battered yet unbroken, Satan watched them retreat, a sneer curling across his face. "Cowards!" he roared, his laughter rising above the clash. Then, with deliberate cruelty, he shed the monstrous form of the dragon, reshaping himself once more into the angelic visage that had once led the choirs of heaven, his brilliance now twisted with mockery. He lifted his arms to the skies. "Behold," he cried, "today will be remembered through eternity, the day I claimed kingship of all realms." What could be more dangerous than rebellion, armed with both power and delusion? The heavens themselves strained under the weight of his boast. Through the chaos of wings and fire, the Almighty's voice cut like a blade into Satan's very being. It was not merely sound, but truth, vibrating through his corrupted soul. Each time you believe victory is yours, I will remind you why I am. Nothing moves without my will. All that happens is by my allowance. You will learn soon enough. My son, the words rang with finality, shaking both armies to their core. Then, just as swiftly as he had appeared, God withdrew from the battlefield. The doors of glory closed behind him with a thunderous clap, echoing through eternity like the sealing of a decree. For a moment, the war itself seemed to pause. Satan, seizing the silence, threw back his head and cried out with a voice dripping venom, "Your father has abandoned you. Behold, what a coward you serve." His words slithered across the expanse, taunting, poisoning, pressing into the minds of all who listened. But the darkness could not hold dominion for long. In a blaze of renewed light, Michael and Gabriel re-emerged, their wounds healed, their resolve sharpened. This time, Michael carried in his hands a weapon unlike any forged before. From the very fires of heaven's war, it had been crafted, sanctified by the will of God himself. Its hilt gleamed with solid pearl, studded with diamonds that pulsed like living stars. The blade shimmered with liquid diamond, each movement catching eternity's light. And running through its core was the reforged metal of Lucifer's shattered crown, a symbol of pride, now transformed into a tool of justice. The weapon pulsed with divine energy, consecrated and unstoppable. Saturn's seven eyes narrowed, his lips curling into a snarl. So, the servant found a new toy. He spat, "It matters little. I will erase you from existence." From his left hand, he summoned a torrent of lightning, not golden like heaven's, but twisted into an unnatural blue. Laced with malice, it tore across the battlefield, a river of destruction aimed at Michael's heart. Michael raised the sword high. The blade caught the bolt, and the collision erupted in sparks that danced like miniature suns. Power against power, holiness against rebellion. The heavens themselves vibrated with the struggle. Neither gave way, the force of Satan's fury clashing with the might of Michael's blessed weapon. It was no longer simply battle, it was the grinding of two realities, light and darkness, locked in a struggle that would decide eternity's course. The clash of Michael and Satan grew so fierce that all other combat seemed to vanish into silence. Angel and demon alike froze, their eyes transfixed on the two titans whose power ripped through the heavens themselves. Energy erupted in waves, immeasurable and terrifying, tearing across the celestial expanse. The holy mountain quaked as if the foundations of creation were splitting apart, cracks racing across its eternal face under the pressure of divine forces colliding. Satan, his form battered, his once brilliant aura now corroded into shadow, summoned every shred of his waning strength. From his 7 mouths poured a wave of black energy, dense and suffocating. A tide of rebellion condensed into raw power. It struck Michael like a hammer, driving him backward. Yet the archangel did not fall. His grip on the pearl-handled, diamond-forged sword held firm, its holy light cutting through the darkness. Suddenly Gabriel appeared beside him, fierce and unyielding, with his trumpet lifted high. He drew a breath that carried the authority of heaven itself. The sound that followed was not mere music, but judgment incarnate. Its blast tore through the battlefield, striking the demonic hordes with such force that their shrieks echoed across eternity. Entire legions faltered, their wings folding in agony. The very cosmos trembled, distant stars flickered and dimmed. Planets uninhabited were shattered into dust, the universe itself shaking under the trumpet's cry. Chaos erupted. The angelic host surged forward, pressing their attack with renewed vigor, while the demons reeled under the weight of the sound. Even Satan, who had mocked and raged, now staggered. His defiance wavered, his strength faltered, his confidence drained like sand slipping from a broken vessel. Then Gabriel's trumpet sounded again, the final note of a holy decree. The blast hurled Satan downward, smashing him against the base of the holy mountain. His fall thundered like a star collapsing, shaking the heavens from crown to foundation. And in that moment, the 4th trumpet rang out. Its sound reverberated through the expanse, sealing what had been foretold. The great door of God swung open once more, brilliance pouring forth like a second creation. From its light stepped the One above all, now revealed in the form of the sun. His radiance poured across the battlefield, consuming every shadow. Even the faithful angels shielded their faces, for none could bear the fury blazing in his presence. The king had entered, and judgment was at hand. Satan rose from the ground, his once golden form reduced to ash and smoke, his 7 crowns broken, his glory long stripped away. His defiance still lingered in his eyes, but his strength was spent. He staggered forward, preparing to meet the sun face to face. The battlefield held its breath. Then, with a voice like eternity itself, the Lord of Glory spoke 3 words that sealed destiny. Depart from me. Why light? At once, the essence of creation split open. A vast void yawned wide at the base of the mountain, darker than night, deeper than time. Its pull was irresistible, a chasm designed for rebellion's end. With a roar of finality, the abyss consumed Satan's legions, drawing in the fallen angels as they writhed and cursed. Their wings, once radiant, vanished into shadow as they tumbled into the pit. Last of all, Lucifer himself was seized by the void, his laughter arrogant, hollow, defiant to the last, echoed against the walls of eternity until it, too, was swallowed. The morning star, once the brightest of all creation, had become nothing more than a memory of pride undone. The war in heaven was finished. Silence descended, vast and holy, the calm after the greatest storm. Then the sun stood, his radiance filling the heavens. His voice resounded across the stillness. The time has come for the will of God to be done on earth, as it has been in heaven. With those words, a new chapter was declared. Stepping through the great door, he left behind the battlefield of angels, signaling not only the end of heaven's war, but the dawn of divine judgment upon the earth. The war in heaven is not just a story locked in the past, it is a reminder etched into eternity. It shows us that pride, unchecked, can destroy even the most radiant, while obedience and humility preserve what is eternal. Lucifer's fall was not only the end of rebellion, it was the triumph of divine order, proving that no power, no arrogance, no darkness can overthrow the will of God. In our lives today, the battlefield looks different, yet the lessons remain the same. Pride, greed, envy, or the desire to control. These are the whispers of rebellion we face every day. And just as heaven stood firm, we too must anchor ourselves in truth, in faith, and in love, so that light always prevails over the shadows trying to invade our hearts. For me, this story is both sobering and inspiring. Sobering, because it warns how easily greatness can fall. Inspiring, because it declares that light cannot be overcome. Every challenge we endure, every trial we face, becomes an opportunity to stand with the one whose victory is eternal. If this message has touched you, let it echo beyond this moment. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss what comes next. Comment below with your thoughts. Your voice matters here. And to everyone who has supported, whether through super thanks or simply by being present, thank you deeply. May you walk in the assurance that God's light surrounds you. His strength upholds you, and His peace never leaves you.